I'd like to call this meeting to order, the regular city council meeting. Roll call, please.
Mayor Luis Trujillo,
Present.
Councilor David Romero,
Here.
Councilor Elaine Rodriguez,
Present.
Councilor Michael Montoya,
Present.
Councilor David Ulibarri Jr.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have a quorum.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, I'd just like to recognize the first responders, all the people working in healthcare, all the people who are stocking grocery stores, all the people who are absolutely necessary in this town, the hard workers that wake up and go to work every day. I'd also like to ask for a special blessing on our community. We ask that you keep everybody safe and that the coronavirus go away immediately and that we have a vaccine soon. Amen.
Mr. Mayor, next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. And I do have one amendment to the agenda to postpone the last presentation on the presentation section of the agenda, which would be the Groundwork Studio, to go ahead and postpone it to the November 11th meeting.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the agenda with that change.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Romero, second.
Record.
Second by Mr. Ulibarri. Roll call, please. Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very
Motion
well.
carries.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, the next item on the agenda is public input, and I do have 3 public input today's meeting. I'll go ahead and get started. The first public input is closure if National Avenue and Highlands University diversion of traffic to University Avenue. This is from Mr. Richard Lindenborg. Routing traffic from the Midtown Interstate to the Highlands University campus along University Avenue is a bad idea for several reasons. 3 university parking lots would contribute to congestion on University Avenue. University in the campus is too narrow for two-way traffic and curb parking. University from Grand to 7th is not a very attractive gateway to the city. Heavy traffic noise on University in the campus would detract from programming in Ilfeld Auditorium. National is better set up for traffic with a median and no parking. Please don't do it. The second public input is from Ms. Susan Saiti. I have concerns about the plan to close National within the New Mexico Highlands University campus. This plan is intended to boost the economy by facilitating visitors access to Bridge Street and historic Old Town, but it actually saves a distance of only 1 block at what cost. As a result, we will lose the best possible glimpse of Las Vegas New Town for those visitors. Staying on University instead of using National as access to Bridge Street denies us the opportunity to show off our beautiful historic Library Park district that includes our Victorian Painted Ladies Library Park, Carnegie Library, 3 historic church buildings, and our expensive NMHU Student Center. Instead, visitors will be limited to the University Avenue, getting a great view of an abandoned gas station, 2 unlandscaped parking lots, the unattractive backside of the Douglas Avenue murals, empty storefronts, the crumbling boarded-up Old Baptist Church building, and a few more parking lots before they will see the amazing Ilfeld Auditorium and other HU landmarks. Is that really the best impression we can make in return for a 1-block shortcut? I have been counting the cars parked on University on campus, and there are usually nearly a dozen now during COVID shutdown. During a more typical year at Highlands, every single street space is taken and the parking lots are completely filled. Where will those cars park without the street space? I want to be very clear, I support almost any move that is good for the historic Old Town economy, but I question whether or not this particular move will be worth the loss of a great impression of our community without a serious rehabilitation effort on University Avenue from 5th Street to Ilfeld Auditorium. That would be a great idea, but the possibility of what is called gentrification is very divisive in our community and will need careful consideration, persuasion, convincing, time, and money to succeed. Please take this concept back to the drawing board. First impressions are important. Thank you. And the last public input is from Meredith Britt. My public input regarding closing National and Macon University a throughway, dear Mayor and Council, City Councilors. Please consider the tourist traffic rerouting idea with great caution because of the comparative views on National, which are beautiful, and on University, which are pretty unattractive. The views on National include Carnegie Library in the park, some attractive homes, the historic church and school, the awesome student center, Donnelly Library, Rogers Hall, outdoor sculptures, and other sites. Spiffing up the several unsightly blocks of University between Grand and 8th Street would cost a fortune and involve many entities, including slumlords. These are my concerns. Thank you very much.
And who is that from?
This is Meredith Britt.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That concludes public input.
Thank you. I have a guest.
You have a gift.
I have an important guest. Who is this?
This is,
Come on. Now. Who is this?
this is Honeysuckle.
Hi, Honeysuckle. Ooh. Hello, baby. Hello, sweetheart. Oh, look at you. You're so cute. Oh my God, you're a dog. Tell me about your dog.
She's about 1 year old.
Uh-huh.
She's very spayed. She's sweet, she's very active, and as you can tell, loves people.
She loves people. I know. I love you too. I love you too. Hey,
She's dressed to go trick or treating.
Yeah.
What a cute dog.
You're the bumblebee outfit. Give me a hug. Give me a hug. Look what I got. Hey,
You have a treat?
give me a hug. Give me a hug. How is she with cats? Not good. Would you like to eat kitties?
I think she would want to play too hard,
Yes.
but
this-
she's great with people.
Yes, this is Honeysuckle. Looks like a lab.
Lab
Mix.
mix, yeah.
Yeah.
She's a female, about 1 year old,
Yes.
already spayed, up for adoption at the AWC Pet Center.
She is a dog. What is your name?
I'm Christian.
Hi, Christian. You work with the Animal Welfare Coalition? What do you do?
I'm kind of stuck, but I work with
Hi, Honeysuckle. You want to go home? Michael, take you home. Let's put him in Mike's truck. He needs a dog at his house. So the Animal Welfare Coalition, again, accepts donations of blankets, pillows, straw, snacks, treats, dog food, cat food, anything that you are in desperate need of.
We always accept monetary donations. They go towards our medical costs for any animal that comes in needing medical attention. And dog food and cat food is always welcome, especially going towards the colder months. We do provide assistance to the public.
Okay. How about bleach?
Bleach is great, especially during these times. We keep everything nice and clean for our animals and for people coming into our center.
Thank you, and I forgot your name again.
My name is Archer. I'm the AWC manager.
Yes. Thank you, and thanks for being here.
Thank you, guys.
Now, was she let me pick her up? Yeah, she's too big, huh? You're too big. Look, you puppy, I love you.
Thank you, Mr.
so
Mayor.
much. Thanks, Christine.
Thank you, guys.
I appreciate you guys. She's a bumblebee tonight. Don't you need a dog, Mr. Wadley?
You got through.
You got 3 already. That dog is so cute. Cassandra?
So cute.
Yeah.
Mayor, we have our next item on the agenda is mayor's appointments, reports, and recognitions or proclamations.
Thank you. The only thing I had was, we were going to have the tree board here today, but because of the COVID situation and the restrictions with groups, we thought we would move them to the November meeting. And if, in case nobody knows, we were again selected as Tree City USA. We got a letter from our congressional delegation in Washington, and a lot has to do with the tree board and all the work that they do with all our beautiful trees in the city. So they also have a flag that they'd like to present to the city celebrating the National Tree City. So we told them we would find a visible flag post for them so that we could display the flag for them. And they really liked the idea of the Plaza Park area because of the beautiful trees there. So, what else? That's about it. Councilors' reports? Anybody?
Mr. Murray.
Mr. Montoya?
I'd just like to take 1 second, one moment over here. I want to recognize and point out one of our officers of the Las Vegas Police Department. On Sunday, while I was traveling to Mass, to church, I observed an officer flashing his lights and on 7th Street across from Lowe's. And he got down and he was assisting an elderly lady that had her hands full with grocery bags. And to me, that picture means a lot. I mean, we're being more community-oriented. We're being more transparent with our public. The lady, I believe, lives in Railroad Avenue. And I just wanted to point him out, Officer Ralph Marquez from the Las Vegas Police Department, for doing such a fine job using good judgment.
Does the chief know?
Yes, I shared it with
Okay.
the chief.
Good.
But I think these are little things that people do in their daily lives, in their daily jobs, that makes a world of difference, and somebody's always watching, so I thank him for that.
Absolutely.
And the department.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Montoya. Anybody else? Dr. Rodriguez?
Sorry, I have a couple of things I want to bring to the councilor and the mayor's attention. A couple of things. One is I received a call from 4 residents who were very happy with the code enforcement. And they were the residents that were struggling with a lot of people from the Riverwalk breaking into the house and causing a lot of problems with drugs and syringes. So they're very appreciative. They were very appreciative because they felt as though they were going to have to move, and they're long-time residents. So they were very pleased with the quick action that the code enforcement and the attorney took on a couple of the properties. So that's one thing. Another thing is I received a call from another resident who was very appreciative of putting up kind of, I guess you would say, flags and that on one of the Riverwalk crossings because the boards were loose. And matter of fact, she said she fell through it and hurt herself, so she called and they were able to put barricades up. So that was good. The other, I was busy. I received a lot of calls this week over the weekend. So I do want to bring it to everybody's attention, and I know everyone had multiple discussions about this because I received text messages, emails, and phone calls regarding the Trump parade that went through the neighborhoods and the police escort of the Trump parade, and people were really upset in the fact that they thought that the police were supporting Trump. And I know we're going to discuss that further in the meeting, so that's all I wanted to mention about that. And then another issue has been coming to my attention, and I know this has been a long standing problem in our community, and I'm not sure how we address it. It probably has been addressed by previous council and mayor, but it's a water issue, water billing. And people are calling and they're getting high water bills, and they're on set incomes, and they're really concerned because they call and sometimes they say they get no answers, and then they call and the people are very rude to them, and they call and they tell them that they're going to look into the problem, and it never gets looked into, and it continues month after month. And it's something I think we need to address. And I know it's been a long-standing issue in the community And it's happened to my family. And since July, we were out of town, we came back, and the water pipes had broken on both sides of Baca Street, the east and west. And the next month, we received a bill for over 1,000. Our bill is usually around 400, and we received a bill for 1,400. And my son-in-law called, and they told him, oh, you know, the water lines had broken, so we're going to fix it. Okay? We're still trying to get it fixed. And we're already in, what, October. And these are the same kind of concerns people are calling. And the people are rude, and I don't understand why they have to be rude. I mean, they need to be addressing residents' concerns and calling them back. So I don't know if that's something we need to take up in a special meeting. And then you could probably give me the historical background on all of this, because I know it's been a problem. So that's my other report that I wanted to bring forward.
Thank you. Mr. Ulibarri?
I did get some calls from some residents on our stop signs. I'm not the manager in here, but you know, some of our stop signs around the city are really faded, real bad. I think I had talked to our city manager if they have butts and stop signs, and I think we need to have a street supervisor go by and check the areas where we need them, you know. I could make at least some of the ones I see, you know, but the stop signs are faded, they're really faded, they're really bad. So that's all I got. Thank you.
I'll make it a point to visit with the manager about that tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Romero?
I just want to add to, you know, I know that the parade that happened, but I just, you know, for future parades, I know, you know, we've done funeral processions, we've, you know, the police and sometimes fire department have participated in them, but I don't know if there's a proper procedure through the city that, you know, one must follow in order to do that. I think sometimes, you know, we make the phone calls to the PD and, you know, they're afford an officer, but maybe there's some more internal procedures that maybe need to be looked at, and I don't know, Dr. Taylor can maybe look in that, and then just so that way, whatever happened this past weekend, you know, can be prevented. I know you've worked with the chief now, you know, as far as what happened in the past, but I'm just saying for future, so we don't run into these problems, you know, that there's actual some, you know, procedure, paperwork that needs to be filed within the police department, who's responsible, because if, you know, one of these, you know, an accident happens, who's held liable, and this way it holds, you know, somebody liable for whatever happens. And then the other thing, that's maybe a note to the water bills. Probably about a year ago, about this time, we had a presentation that Maria gave us. Remember, she went from step A, you know, how they, you know, they do from the meter reading. Maybe she could do that, you know, maybe do another presentation to where you're aware. One question that I had back then, and maybe, you know, for future she could look into this, is how are we auditing the water bills? You know, how are we making sure that every so often that those, because they're digital meters or electronic meters, how are we making sure that those meters are, you know, anything electronic, you know, once in a while fails, or, you know, sometimes may be accurate, but, you know, I mean, I'm just, you know, long-term is, you know, how are we making sure that we're auditing those? Because we do, I think we all receive those calls as, you know, we get those spikes in bills, and, you know, sometimes the residents aren't even there for as long as normally they are, and they get a higher bill. So I'm just, you know, long-term, maybe there's like an audit process that can happen to make sure that those.
I'll definitely bring it up, because that is also a concern that I had today, and we're dealing with another case, and the attorney's helping us with that one. But yes, I totally agree, and Ronnie, I want to make sure that we avoid those exorbitant costs for our citizens at all costs. My point is that those are also mechanical. So mechanical things fail. And so, you know, nothing works 100% of the time. And so I also have a lot of concerns about that. So yes, we'll be meeting about this further. And then working on something that might indemnify the city a little bit more as to how much that can be collected in the event of a water leak,
Right.
as opposed to charging the full consumption price for something that happens. I just feel bad. It happened to me one time, and it was a faulty toilet. And I didn't know that, well, I sort of knew that the toilet was faulty because I'd hear it once in a while. I had no idea that it could have that great of an impact. After I got my bill a month later, I was astonished that it's not 1,400 or 18 or 2,500, but nonetheless, it was a larger water bill. So we'll be working on that.
But I also think it's a matter of talking to the resident. When the resident calls and complains about the exorbitant cost, can someone go out and check and maybe ask them, don't assume. And that's what these residents are saying is, and they did the same to us when I called in, because I called in after my son-in-law had been working on it for 6 months and didn't get anything taken care of. And they assumed we had faulty toilets, and I said, well, no, we just installed all new toilets and they're energy efficient. And then they assumed it was our plumbing and said, well, it could be your plumbing. I said, no, well, it's your hose. You probably left the hose on all night. And I go, no, we don't use that water. We rent it off of our water tanks. So my concern is it's the customers being blamed right away without any follow-up on the city's part.
Yeah.
To see if it's something that we can work with the citizen.
Yeah,
or the resident.
and I've talked earlier to the city manager and to the attorney and to Maria regarding some kind of a arbitration type of thing where
Yes.
this is the process. I get a big bill, then we send somebody out, give the residents the benefit of the doubt.
Yes.
Until we find out, hey,
Yeah.
it was either our fault or your fault or whatever, and work with them.
Correct.
But no resident or no constituent should be treated rudely on the telephone.
Right.
And I will work on customer service for that.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Just to add to that, I kind of, go back to, when I brought it up last year. So I had received kind of what's happening now, because we're getting, I think we've even, we've all gotten the calls. So last year, when this kind of happened, I checked with, I have, contacts with the schools, and I asked them, can you please check your bills and kind of see if you noticed the increase? So it was, all in all, the whole city had kind of seen like a spike in their bills. And it wasn't just, a little, spike, it was a big spike. So kind of, we hear these individuals, and yes, there might be 5, 6 individuals that are calling us, but, going back to the audit, I know that and we as elected leaders, we know those individuals, they don't want to deal with the government, so they'll just pay the bill.
Pay the bill.
And even if they're on a fixed income, and if it may, means they might not get their prescriptions, they pay their bills anyway, but it kind of isn't fair to those individuals that don't want to deal with the government, just basically swallow that pill. And that's where I say, Mr. Mayor, is that, long-term, some type of audit where we're kind of keeping track of those, we're taking care of the problem without, because there's some residents that are dealing with that.
We will definitely work on
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
customer
Appreciate
service.
it.
Yeah, and we'll also work on an arbitration type of process for those instances.
Yeah, because I think you're right, it wears the person down. It won't wear me down, I'll make sure I continue addressing
Yeah.
it, even if it's after a year, but it does, it wears people down, and like you said, they just pay it.
Yeah, but we'll work on that.
Okay.
That's a promise. Sandra?
Mr. Mayor, next is presentation, or city manager's report. The city manager was unable to be here tonight.
Okay, that's fine.
So he did state that he sent everyone a report on Friday, and he will send another one out this Friday.
Okay.
Next item is presentations, not to exceed 10 to 15 minutes per person. Our first presentation is going to be by Aaron Mucoletto with Comcast, speaking on what Comcast investment in Las Vegas means to the city and what Comcast brings to the community in addition to their fiber internet. We're going to get Ms. Mucoletto on the phone, and she's going to do her presentation through a conference.
Thank you.
Just a quick question, Sandra. Was this the same individual that did for the, when they did the cable, when we did the?
Yes, for the
same
franchise
one?
agreement.
From Albuquerque, Santa Fe.
She's in Albuquerque.
Some companies don't allow them to be in person.
No, she said if there's over 5.
Hi, this is Erin Muffaletto.
Hi, Aaron, this is Mayor Trujillo and our city council. How are you?
I'm doing great, Mayor. How are you all doing?
We're doing good. We're anxious to hear about Comcast. So give us the one, two.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. I also told Cassandra I wanted to give you all a PowerPoint, so when we're able to be in person, I'll give you a more extensive rundown of everything. In the meantime, I'll give you a quick rundown, and then if you all have any questions, let me know. So, so about 3 months ago, we announced our investment in Las Vegas, New Mexico. That investment is $9.4 million to expand our broadband services. We initially said 7,500 homes, but it's actually going to be 8,500 homes now. So we're going to be expanding to a lot more people than we thought. That's going to be not only for residents, but for businesses as well. So we're expanding for business services as well. We are expected to be complete with the project in quarter 3 of 2021. And that's kind of like if things happen, like weather-wise and everything, we're just expecting delays, going to be Q3. We're hoping to be done earlier, but that's kind of the, expected date as of now. So what that means, the other thing is as we progress, more like residents will be turned on before other residents. So that completion date is the completion date of all homes and businesses in the area. So some might get service and, sooner, like December, January, while others might not receive service until like April. So what the service really means is customers can get up to 1 gigabit of broadband service. Currently, we only provide video, so of course it's going to be a huge expansion. Not only will we be able to provide internet, but we'll be able to provide home security as well. All of the services that we offer in Albuquerque, Las Vegas will be receiving the same. Oh.
It's wonderful. Thank you. I think we lost her. Did we lose you? Sometimes it does that, huh? Smells like...
Hello, you have reached Erin Muffaletto with Comcast New Mexico.
I'm trying to call back.
Please leave your name, number, and a brief message, and I will get back to you as soon.
Vodka.
It smells like moonshine. Not that I know what moonshine is. She's probably talking to herself.
Hi.
I'm sorry, we lost you. We probably left you talking to yourself.
I was, and then I was like, it's so quiet.
We're sorry.
Sorry about that. Where, sorry, my phone is back
Same
on.
services as
Where was the
Albuquerque.
one last thing you all heard from me?
That we're going to have the same services as Albuquerque.
Yes. Okay. So everything that Albuquerque has, Las Vegas will have the same services. So we're really excited. It's a huge expansion for us. It's one of very few expansions we're doing in the west of the country. So it's a really big, exciting project for our headquarters, actually. So this will connect. The other thing I want to let you all know, with this, we'll also be able to provide our Internet Essential service. So that's $9.95 internet for those who qualify. It's for families and veterans, seniors who are low income. So that's also an added service to the community for low cost internet. The other thing that just kind of add, I don't want to bore you all too much, but our Xfinity mobile service will be available in the area. Xfinity Wi-Fi hotspots, Xfinity Flex, that's a simplified streaming service for Xfinity Internet customers. Our X1 Entertainment platform. So I don't know if y'all have seen commercials where people speak in their remote. I have it at my house. It's really cool. Just you say whatever you want to watch and it pops up. You just speak in the remote. So that'll be an option. And then Xfinity Stream, it's our streaming TV app. With Xfinity On Demand, with lots of movies, shows, DVR, those types of things. And I already mentioned home security. But yeah, Wi-Fi, voice, TV, and then managed enterprise solutions for businesses. Small, large. That will be available.
Barry, what about the possibilities of, I don't know much about your fiber expansion, but I've heard a lot about the need for hotspots in the community. So there's, especially now with the kids learning from home, the connectivity isn't the best. So I'm just wondering about hotspots around the city, where we could maybe, I know some cities are offering internet hotspots for free all over cities. I don't know if that's something that you've thought about or...
Yeah. So all of our install is fiber, but the Wi-Fi hotspot, so those are available. Usually it's only available for customers, but right now during COVID, we've opened up all of our Wi-Fi hotspots for anybody that needs it. Until we figure out, if things were to go back to normal tomorrow, which who knows is going to happen, then we will close up the hotspot. But, being that we are in a time where people will be more connected, kids are doing school from home, parents are working from home, I'm working from home, we realize that people need Wi-Fi. So we're definitely doing that in Las Vegas. That will be an option if, the early part of the year, that will be available. Until announced otherwise, until things change with COVID. And then also, of course, the Internet Essential 995 Internet, that will also be available. And that's home internet.
That's cool. That's exciting. Well,
I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, we appreciate, your company investing in our community and in our neighboring rural communities as well.
Yeah, we're all really excited. I'm from northern New Mexico, so I'm personally excited to see that we are investing more in rural communities. The Internet Essentials program I was just going to add, so that is no credit checks, no contract to sign. We're actually offering 2 free months of internet service through December 31st. So even customers who only want to use it for 2 months, they can then, turn it off at the end of 2 months, or if $10 is too much for them, they can always cancel at any time. We're really trying to make it as easy as possible to get people connected, and especially during this time, we're doing everything we can. So.
Perfect. It's going to help a lot of kids that are learning from home and a lot of parents and so forth. And because it's you know, it's very affordable. It's going to also help our community, so. We appreciate everything. Is there anything else you want to tell us? This is wonderful news.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else at this time. I'll definitely keep you all updated as we progress. Give you all some more updates. But in the meantime, do you all have any questions for me?
Mr. Romero, go ahead.
Hello, Aaron. This is Councilor Romero. I met you last time when we did our franchise agreement with the cable.
Hi,
Nice to talk to you again. I just have a couple questions. You mentioned the 1 gigabyte. What's the normal price on that service?
Great question. It really depends. It really depends on all of the service. I'm trying to do a quick search to see. That is our fastest internet.
Yeah.
It can range from $90 to $140 per month, just depending upon like what exactly you're looking for.
Okay. But, you know, for those that are low income, you do have programs available to help with the cost. That's what you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That high-speed internet, that would never change. That is $9.95 a month. And since taxes, internet is not taxed,
Yeah.
there's no taxes. It'll always be $9.95. The added bonus with our Internet Essentials program is once a person is part of that program, to qualify for a computer for $149.95. That's bring a computer with Excel, Word, antivirus, all ready to go, you know, once the customer turns on the computer.
So kind of the requirements, would it be like if residents are receiving SNAP, some of those programs, is that kind of how they?
Yeah, it's essentially receiving any type of assistance.
Okay.
There are lots of bullets or items that families can qualify.
Okay.
So it's targeted to low-income veterans, low-income seniors, low-income families, students. The other thing is if a student is going to a school that receives 40% or more free or reduced lunch at school, they automatically qualify.
Okay.
That's ours.
Yeah, that's pretty much,
Yeah.
you know, a good portion of my district. Couple other things. I know this is kind of a bit off topic, but it's kind of, you know, our franchise agreement that we had with cable.
Yeah.
I know we have a new recreation director, and he was telling me that I guess he was told here locally, and I don't know, maybe there was a bit of confusion as to the service that we would get based off of our franchise agreement. He's saying that we only get the standard 4 channels, local channels. Is that what the agreement was?
For the PEG channels, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, for the ones that were, included were libraries, schools, and rec center.
Oh, for the cable service.
Yeah, the cable.
For the cable. Yeah, so that actually, there was a major federal change with our ability to offer free services. The FCC ruled, almost a year ago actually, that cable companies cannot provide free services to towns, municipalities, counties, to anybody, because it is essentially seen as a almost like a pay-to-play lobbying type piece.
Okay.
So there have been lots of arguments trying to defeat it. We honestly see it as a service helping communities.
Yeah.
We're not in any rush to turn that off. We've actually been extending that as long as we can.
Okay.
Especially right now. But that is something that the FCC is probably going to come down next year at some point, telling us, we need to start enforcing it.
Yes.
That's been a kind of a blow to us as far as services we're able to offer. So, like, as of now, anybody asking for for new service to a school or library, we're not able to fulfill that.
Okay.
If somebody already has it, we're leaving it alone as long as we can.
Okay.
But that's something that unfortunately is going away, and we have no control over it because it is a federal law now.
Because we do have it, but I guess there's the confusion as to, what channels or whatever, but I'll have, the mayor or city manager, get in contact with you on a private note on that.
Yeah.
I had one last question. Our mayor, was elected back in March, and he's been very engaged, with community projects, stuff like that. I was just wondering and asking you here, if you could, help the mayor out with some of his initiatives that he's, you guys are a big partner, within the community, and I'm just wondering, I'm gonna make that olive branch if you'd be, willing to help out, the mayor with some of his projects.
Oh, definitely. That's actually something, I'm sorry I failed to mention that. So when we invest in a community, when we are part of a community, we invest in the community, and we want to be part of the community. So we're actually already members of the local chamber. We're looking for other groups to partner with in the future. So we've already done some initial investment with our community investment team, and then we're looking at where else can we appropriate dollars in the community. To be good, stewards and good partners with the town of Las Vegas. So that is something that we've actually been. If you all do have anything, certainly please let me know. If there is any certain groups or any type of nonprofits you should be focused on working with and partnering with in the community, we're definitely all ears and willing to help on those types of things. I was actually talking with the mayor a few weeks ago when we were there about our Comcast Cares Day. We usually do that every year. This year, of course, we didn't do it with COVID. But that's something that, in the future, we would definitely do with Las Vegas.
Okay.
And that comes with investment in the community, meaning dollars to the community, helping restore and revitalize areas where the city would say, well, we really want to clean up the park, we want to make this a project, we would focus on that. Like I said, really just want to hear from you all as far as where you think the major need is or where we should be focusing on as partners with the community, and love to talk more about that.
Okay. All right, thank you, Aaron, and thanks again to Comcast for, the investment in our community. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. Thank you all. Please, if there's anything that we can help you with, and like I said, any groups we should be speaking with, please let me know.
We sure will. And thank you for taking the time, and I know we've extended your work day.
Oh, no. My pleasure. Thank you all.
Okay.
Have a great evening.
You too. Thank you, Aaron.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Next order of business.
Mr. Mayor, our next presentation is by our Deputy Fire Chief Span, reporting on the fire hydrant testing results.
Mayor, Council, how are you today?
Hi, Mr. Span. Welcome.
Thank you. I'll make this as brief as possible, but I know you and the public have a lot of questions about our testing on the hydrants.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right. There we go. So back in July, with cooperation of Public Works and ourselves, with Maria, we contracted Waterway to come out and test our hydrants. The most recent records we had were from 2014. So We actually, by fire code, need those hydrants tested every year. One, it helps us know what our flow is, those hydrants, for if there's any structure fires, as well as it allows us to identify any issues or maintenance problems we need to resolve right away. It also helps lower our ISO rating, which assists with residential and business insurance premiums, as well as funding for the fire department. So the testing started July 13th, 2020. Flow testing, I said, should be every year. The standard they use for this is NFPA 229. During this testing process, Waterway went through and they flushed all of our hydrants, flow tested them, which is testing two different hydrants, our main hydrant and a downstream hydrant. By doing this, we get a calculation that tells us our total gallons per minute these hydrants can produce. While they're doing this, they also color marked them, as people have seen. They went from orange, green, blue, and red, as well as the black bag ones. With this as well, they GPSed each one of the hydrants, so now once we get the GIS working in service for our city, we can put these in there and have full access to the location of every hydrant that's on the city water service. Totally, there was 538 city-owned hydrants that were tested, county and city. Out of these, there was a total of 580 they looked at, but they only charged us at 538 because the 580 they either couldn't get access to or couldn't even operate them properly. We had 42 that failed the test. 10 different reasons. 2 of them, fence obstructions from private property obstructing the hydrants. The fence is literally up against it, so we can't even open the hydrant. And we are going to work with Maria to resolve these issues. 7 of them, there was no water or the water was shut off. 5 of them, the 2.5-inch discharge threads were loose. And when we talk about that, you have your hydrant, the cap, and there's a brass thread between the two. That actual thread itself was loose. It's unsafe to test at that point because the pressure could actually shoot that cap off and you lose a knee or a kneecap. 14 of them were the steamer seized, unable to open. That's the main 5-inch cap on it that we use for our main supply. 5 of them, sprays from the traffic flange. And the traffic flange, everybody's seen the Hollywood movies where you hit a hydrant, water goes everywhere. Not up here. Up here we have dry hydrants because it freezes, but you'll see where it bolts down at a flange, that's made to break away if a car hits it and not set off our water. This is showing that there's either a gasket's out or some problem there where it's leaking and we need to get it resolved. 5 other ones, caps were seized or rusted on all the caps. This is all 3 caps, or based on our older hydrants, 2 caps. Can't access them. The bonnet was loose on 1 of them. This is the part that was color-coded. Our guys can't even open those if it's doing that, because when they start to turn, it can shoot up and then we have an injury to our people. RD bag prior to testing was 1 of them. Where this came from is we have one behind Station 2 that's bagged. It's not even connected to water. Our guys used it for testing. Waterway saw it and thought it was already out of service, but it's a dead hydrant we use for training. Vegetation obstruction was 1 of them. This is a cedar bush right up against it. So we're contacting the property owner to remove it because we need 36 inches around a hydrant for clearance. And then another one was hydrant was not bolted down. So it's there, but it turns. So it's got a little rhythm to it. Sorry for the bad jokes, but I left my good ones at home. Out of the rest of the hydrants, 93 hydrants that are still in service, but they need repairs or replaced of some kind of maintenance done to them. 21 of them have broken chains. Those chains are there to retain the caps on the hydrant, so if it does, for instance, shoot off, when they open the hydrant, it doesn't go more than 6 to 8 inches and doesn't hit somebody or a car or a citizen. 4 of them, the barrel was not draining. That's under the ground. There's actually a drain, so when you open the hydrant, when you're first opening it and closing it, it flushes back pressure out and clears out that drain so it can drain out the hydrant. Especially up here in our cold conditions, if these 4 hydrants are retaining water, it is possible they'll freeze and crack the cast iron on those hydrants themselves. The stem that's leaking, that's the very stem on the very top of the hydrant that we access that's leaking water. Could be a gasket, could just need to be tightened up inside. Difficult to open, the stem seizing. They just need to be worked really well, or they need to be greased with food grade grease to make sure they're proper. Discharge cap seized on the hydrant. This is different from the first slide. It means only 1 cap was seized and we still have access to the other 2 main caps, so it doesn't put that one totally out of service. 5 of them had no 18-inch clearance. They need to raise the hydrant up. That rule comes from the main stem on that big discharge in the front. There has to be 18 inches from the middle of that stem to the ground so our hydrant ridge clears it. And then 4 of them were vegetation overgrowth, but they're still operable. It's either a vine, weeds, or something like that. 15 of them had discharge caps leaking. The actual caps themselves, even though they're on there, they're leaking. They just need the gaskets replaced. Just a simple rubber gasket on those. 2 of them, the bonnet was leaking, but the bonnet is still secure and it's not going to go anywhere. It's probably a gasket as well with those. And 7 of them had 36-inch clearance violations. They didn't have the clearance 36 inch around the way to be a fence or something like that. 3 of them, they couldn't open the valve fully, so they get halfway open, but they couldn't open it all the way. Problem with that is if you only open a hydrant halfway when you're operating it, it'll erode out of that drain valve and start to possibly cause a sinkhole or destroy the gravel base underneath there. 2 of them were gate restricted access. They were city hydrants, but they were inside private property of the gate we couldn't access, and we're working to resolve that issue as well. There was an actual fire. Our guys have ways of getting in, so it's still secure. 3 of them had discharged threads that were leaking. This is that brass thread I was talking about between the cap and the hydrant. It's loose and leaking in there. And then 2 of them had the discharge thread housing loose itself, so the whole, you could just sit there and jiggle it. Out of that, there was 93 issues of those, with 42 that are out of service. It gives us a total of 135 issues that we need to look at.
Who fixes them?
Maria's people do, and we just got these reports a few weeks ago. We're working together to get this resolved right away. They already started working once the testing started.
Okay.
So for the color coding, this is what a lot of people have been wondering. This is for our firefighters to identify when they're driving up to a scene how much GPM those hydrants put out, because when we do our pre-plans on buildings, we look at this building, for instance, take the square footage, the fire load inside of it, and we divide it by different percentages so we can see how many gallons per minute we need to maintain the fire to prevent it from growing. So they know right away pulling up if they need to tag 1 or 2 hydrants. So any blue hydrants that you see in the town, those are the best we can have. That's 1,500 GPM or more. Green is 1,000 to 1,499 gallons per minute. Orange is 199 gallons per minute. Red's below 500. And black is permanently out of service. They can be repaired, but by our ordinance and NFP 291, it's considered permanently out of service.
And how many of those are there?
Black ones, there's 42, sir.
Oh, jeez.
So we had 140 blue, 247 greens, 124 orange, and 27 reds.
What are we doing about the black ones?
The black ones, like I said, the first week they started testing them, they started pointing out like some of the ones we're having problems with, and Maria's people got on them right away and started trying to resolve the issues. So I need to get with her and see where we're at, but they are working to get these all resolved right away.
What's the priority?
Hydrants within that, because by city ordinance, the max distance they can be is 500 feet away from each other. So we're still able to access them, but those blacks are going to be our priority getting back in service.
Okay.
To add to the mayor's question, on the black,
Yes, sir.
you said that we were GPSing them. Is there any in the town where there might be 2 or 3 blacks within a neighborhood or area that might be dangerous or no? Or are we?
We still have hydrants. I can't give you that we can access and use. We also have our tender, which can provide us with water supply as well. As far as what areas in, I'm putting them into our reporting system the fire department uses. Once they're done, I'll have a complete Google map that can show you where every hydrant is, and they're color coded on the map as well. So I can give you an exact answer to that. But I apologize, I haven't gone through the full list. It's a tedious data entry process, but I will get that updated as soon as I
But
can.
going back to the way the mayor said, if we do have something to that nature, or there's not enough, some of the red or orange and black in one neighborhood, we could jump on those blacks to make sure that that neighborhood is covered with the.
Yes, sir. Those would be moved to priority right away.
You're saying that 42 are out of service. Is that on the residential areas or it's around the city limits? Or?
It's a mixture of all of those, sir. Some of them could be up in Luna where we have hydrants at. Some could be here within residential areas or in commercial areas as well. They're kind of divided up. I actually have the full report I can send to you and show you where they're at.
Mr. Montoya?
Yeah. So all this ties in with insurance.
Yes, sir.
So whenever half of the fire hydrants don't work, our insurance for our citizens and our businesses are higher. Is that true statement?
No, sir, the way that actually works when I say the insurance is it goes by the ISO rating for the fire department in the city. That's one of the things. They look at how often we inspect businesses in the town. They look at hydrants. They look at how our trucks are stocked and if they're supplied properly and what our response is. Do we always roll out with 2 engines with enough personnel? It's a full booklet that gives you points for each one of those.
Yeah, and then the other angle of it is when you ask for grants and you're asking for funding, this is part of the question.
This is one of
a
the
report
questions.
that goes submitted for that, and that can either hurt you or you can get funded.
Yes, sir. On that, they do ask us if our hydrants are tested on an annual basis or how often. They also ask how often our engines are pump tested, which is done every year as well.
And that's for any grant for the fire department.
For the majority of them, yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Well, I did have one last question.
Yes, sir.
Who services or how often are they inspected? Is it once a month, once a year, once every 10 years?
By NFPA standard, they should be inspected every year. The max that we can go for the ISO part is 5 years. And then that breaks it down by percentage of how many points we get.
And do we have the last inspections?
The last inspections we had before we got with Maria to get this testing done was 2014.
2014.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
You're very welcome, sir.
Cassandra?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the next presentation is the Health Security Plan and Pat Lehan with Teaching Justice Center, giving an update on New Mexico Health Security Plan, which is a plan that was passed by the legislature last year. We do have one, we're going to make a phone call or conference call for Miss Mary Feldblum, and then we have Pat Lehan who's going to be here in person. So are you dial and I'll go get Pat Lehan. Let me just wipe this down real quick. And then I'll call her.
Welcome, Pat.
I want to be away from that person. I've been listening, I've been hearing coughing. I'm going to move a little away.
Oh, it's me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you probably need to, or, yeah.
You can sit right here, Pat.
But thanks for liking.
Hello?
Hi, this is Mayor Trujillo and our city
Hi,
council.
Mayor. Yes, this is Mary Feldblum, the Executive Director.
Hi.
Of the Security Campaign.
How are you?
Oh, well, it's sort of an unusual situation, isn't it?
Yes.
That's sad, you know.
We're getting to it. Well, we have Pat Lehan here. We'd like to get going with the presentation.
Great, okay. Pat, did you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
I just did a brief intro, and I did bring packets to hand out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 9. I just wanted to say I'm really glad Dr. Feldblum could at least join us by phone, and I do hope that the city council moves to virtual so that those of us who are here in person will feel better about not having to come in person. So I'm giving to Cassandra a packet that has 3 things in it. It has a draft municipal resolution. The city council did pass a resolution before, but we're updating it now and renewing your support. And there's also key takeaways from a fiscal analysis that was done. And then the third one is from nmhealthsecurity.org, and it's answers to all the frequently asked questions that are on their website. And I just wanted to say the Las Vegas Peace and Justice Center has been a strong supporter of the New Mexico Health Security Act since the very beginning. And there are other organizations and entities in town, including the County Commission and the City of Las Vegas, that have supported this. And we're getting closer and closer, and this session is going to be the one. So you'll hear from Dr. Feldblum about all the hard work that they've been doing and how we can get you to help us move forward with it. Thanks, Mary.
Oh, thanks, Pat. And thank you, Mayor and Council. I appreciate the ability to call in. I wish I were there personally so we could, you know, there's nothing like the personal meeting. You called me, I was looking at the 2006 resolutions that the city council passed, and I've actually two presentations before the city council. One was just educating council members about what this was, and the second was just to answer questions about the resolution. And what's really kind of sad when you look at the resolution, and I know Cassandra has a copy of it for you all, is that, it talks about the problems of escalating premiums and co-pays and pharmaceutical drug costs rising, the numbers of uninsured increasing, and we still have these problems today, and the coronavirus clearly has aggravated flawed situations that we have. We're finding that our rural hospitals are in trouble, physicians are frustrated, and our coalition at the time in 2006 was around 125 organizations, and today we're 175 organizations. 38 counties and municipalities have actually passed resolutions in support of this plan. And the reason I think there's so much interest is we have a state with a very small population, and it makes absolutely no sense to have what's called a multi-payer system of different, not only different insurance companies, but different policies, different co-pays, different deductibles. That is a cost not only because of that complex system, but it adds cost to hospitals, clinics, and doctors and their overhead. And it makes sense to more and more people that New Mexico should set up its own health plan that would cover almost everybody. For instance, the military retirees would retain their own health care system, and the tribes are sovereign nations, so that there's some complexity, but to this, and that over the years, actually, through meetings and presentations and input from probably thousands of New Mexicans at this point, we have come up with something, the plan that I talked about to you all in 2006 has grown and matured and is completely smothered in green and red chili. There is nothing, nothing like it. I mean, it is a very homegrown New Mexico plan, and it would allow most New Mexicans to have complete freedom of choice of doctor and hospital, so that there's no more networks, and it would also provide coverage that is no less than what the state employees and teachers have, which is a good package, and your employees may be connected with risk management, so they would be familiar with this. It's a very good package. It would be administered by, and I think this is quite extraordinarily important, a geographically representative citizens board. So it's like a co-op. It's not a state agency. 10 representing consumer and business interests, and 5 representing health facility interests and provider interests. So it's geographically representative. And of the 15, only 4 can come from Albuquerque, 2 from Santa Fe, which means 9 come from outside Albuquerque and Santa Fe. So the intent is to really have rural New Mexico have a big say. It would be paid for by using existing public health care dollars like Medicaid, and then premiums based on income sliding scale. So there's groups of people that, like Medicaid recipients and the tribes, if they join, they don't pay premiums. And then there's a cap to it at the high end, and then employers would pay something based on number of employees and payroll, also with a cap. So what was passed, and I noticed in your agenda that it said that the bill was passed. It wasn't the bill that was passed. In the legislation, there's always been, let's see if this is affordable first before we proceed. And of course, a lot of concern. We're a poor state. What would happen? So in 2019, the legislature allocated $400,000 for the Legislative Finance Committee to conduct a fiscal analysis, and I know that you have what's called the key takeaways. The company that did perform the analysis was called K&G Health Consulting, based in Maryland, and they did their final report in September 4th, and I was asked to also present comments. And I think what was interesting about their report, one, they were asked to calculate, assuming that the Health Security Act would take time to set up, that, and 2024 would be the startup date for the actual plan itself. And so they are projecting, and I'm a social scientist, to project years, several years down the pike when, and we don't even know who's going to be president, and what the situation will be. So they projected for 2024, and what they came up with is fascinating. Is they did 4 different what ifs, because you have to make different assumptions, and all their what ifs showed that the health security plan would actually cost less than the current system, dramatically less, anywhere between $1.5 billion to $2.6 billion within 5 years. I mean, that's an enormous amount of savings. And it does it not only because of the administrative savings from simplifying a system and bulk purchasing of drugs would be allowed, but it also, they make quite a few really important points, that you'll have a healthier population, you'll have that you'll also be able to reduce workers' comp and auto insurance premiums because they have large health components, and the administrative simplicity will be very beneficial to hospitals that would have a system, and I can explain that if you're interested, called global budgets that Maryland and Pennsylvania are experimenting with, and it's been very successful. Instead of having pages of charges, a hospital gets a negotiated, guaranteed budget that is a real benefit, could be a real benefit to New Mexico hospitals. So essentially, that's what's happened this coming session. We have Senator Jerry Ortiz-Pino and many other House members and senators want to introduce the bill. They think the time is right. And the issue before us now is to think about the 3-year setup period, because this is a major paradigm shift, a major change. And to do that, we need to do it carefully with lots of public input. So right now, and in fact, I have a meeting with Representative Debbie Armstrong and Senator Ortiz-Pino tomorrow afternoon, and we're talking about figuring out the cost of the setup and how that's going to work and what task needs to be done, because that will be included in the upcoming bill that will be introduced. So I'm going to stop, and of course I hope you have many, many questions. And again, I want to thank you for this wonderful opportunity to talk to you.
When do you need the resolution passed by?
Well, whenever you feel you can pass it. I know that there are rules, open meetings and, publishing and posting. And it would be wonderful we've had quite a few cities and counties that passed resolutions like you all did in the past. And then they more recently passed an updated resolution. Bernalillo County, Valencia County, Sandoval County, my county, the city of Albuquerque, Santa Fe County. There are quite a few that have what I call recommitted their vows.
Okay. Can I ask you, is this a similar model that was used in Massachusetts?
No, it's not. Massachusetts, Romney was the governor at the time, and when he ran for president, it actually, Obama's plan was very similar to what Massachusetts did, which is with the exchange. In other words, you have an exchange and a private insurance system that those who don't have insurance the idea is you can buy insurance and get subsidies to pay for it if you have a certain income level. And in the services should be equivalent, and it's supposed to be more transparent than for an individual to just buy in the private market. So it's a very different system. This one shifts the role of private insurance. So if you, it's like self-insuring. The state, this plan would self-insure most New Mexicans, and employers and individuals could purchase supplemental the way you can under, for instance, Medicare, traditional Medicare. You're covered, and then you can buy extra on the market.
So would people be able to opt out of coverage or have their own commercial coverage still?
No, the numbers crunching, it works in our state because we've got such a small population, is if most people are automatically covered. So you could keep those who could keep their private insurance are those that are self-insured large companies.
Right.
And that comes under a federal law, and the state can't mandate that they join. But in conversations I've had, and that includes Yates Petroleum and others, and the data that I see today, they are really hurting with rising healthcare costs.
Yeah.
And so when Intel has 2,000 some odd employees, and now would be part of a health risk pool of about 1.8 million people, they automatically seek economies of scale.
Yeah.
And so but they can, and any employer could, offer extra. There will be a supplemental market that will be quite lucrative, I think, just the way the Medicare supplemental market has been for insurance companies.
Sure.
So that they can offer extra, or people can buy extra as individuals if they want.
Would the coverage be minimal? Would most?
No, the coverage, what's wonderful about it, that's using the state employee services, is it's a really excellent package of. We just recently had the medical psychiatrists recommit their vows because they had joined many years ago, and they looked at the latest bill, and they have said we still are so supportive of this. Mental health is in big crisis. In fact, COVID has 19 has in fact created a lot of stress for so many people, as we all know, and we have a real problem with mental health services, and the state employee services is really very good. It includes biofeedback. It also includes acupuncture, chiropractic treatments. It's a really good package, and the advantage in using it is that we have a lot of state employees, and we also have teachers and educational employees that have experience with this. So we're not inventing something new. And the plan can, if the savings kick in the way KNG says, and there also were 2 studies done in New Mexico prior to the Affordable Care Act, so that it didn't assume all those subsidies and the Medicaid expansion program. And those 2 studies also said there would be substantial savings. So if those savings actually kick in, we can be in the position of maybe even adding better services. But the services offered would be really good, and I could send Cassandra so you could see what those services look like.
Yeah. And so just let me just ask you this question: Would this plan cover mental health better than the plan we have?
Yes. Well,
which is terrible.
I don't know what plan you have, but there is a parity provision in the Health Security Act, and we've had psychologists and psychiatrists look over the language that's in the bill, and what's going to be the 3-year setup process. We're going to quite a few doctors have been saying this is going to be great because we can simplify what has become a very complicated IT system. There are studies out there. The Mayo Clinic has done some studies of physician stress, and physicians spend 3 times more time on the computer than they do with their patients. And it's, the idea that we can set up something that's ours, that's homegrown, that is accountable, but is also simplifies life so providers can, pay attention to patients and not get so complicated paperwork, which is really designed for billing purposes, not for accountability purposes. And so, so that will be a great benefit, and it will be an attraction to providers. We have a problem of physicians and underserved areas in New Mexico. 30 of our 33 counties are underserved, and that includes mental health providers. And so we're in talking to psychiatrists, Medical Psychiatrists Association and psychologists. They're very excited about this because they think that this can actually serve as a real attraction to our state to get more physicians and to have our medical students and our actually want to stay here.
Yeah, I'm more concerned about coverage for mental health services.
Yeah, I can. What you'll see in the the bill is I can send Cassandra the bill if you want. We have a table of contents and an index, but I could send and the table of contents I can star where it talks about mental health.
Is it online somewhere?
Yes, it's on our web, definitely on our website, which would be nmhealthsecurity.org. And what you would want also is the table of contents and the index. We've tried to make it easy for people to find the language they're interested in. But I will send Cassandra the services offered by state employees. That I think is on our website. But just in case I'm wrong, I just want to make sure that you see what they cover in terms of mental health.
Okay. At this time, I'd open for any discussion or concerns or comments.
This is Councilwoman Rodriguez. If I go to your web page or website, would I have access to the full report by KNG Health Consulting?
Yes, you would.
Okay.
And the
Yes, we have posted it, and our comments and graphs that we created using their data.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to plug a couple of more things and iterate what Mary was saying. It brings more jobs, more medical providers. If we get the surplus that the fiscal analysis says we might, that money could then go into education and infrastructure. The focus of the Health Security Act is patient-centered, prevention, and that alone will help us to become a healthier population. If you go to Arizona to visit the grandkids and you get sick while you're there, that'll be taken care of. So it's something I've looked into thoroughly, and I'm telling you, I really think it's a good thing, and our state needs it. So we won't have to worry when we hear all this discussion. We've been hearing that. All these people losing their jobs because of COVID, that also means they lose their insurance. You won't lose your insurance if you lose your job with the Health Security Act. You don't have to worry. So if you want to switch jobs or take a few months off, you'll still be covered. And you can buy into dental. There's some great stuff in this.
Anybody else?
I also think it's important, a premium based on income. I'm self-employed. So if my income goes down, that means my premium will go down.
Right, it's not based on your age, your employment, your health status.
No,
it's based on your income.
It's not based on your age, your gender, your health conditions. It's based on income. And the assumption, the word deductible is not even included in the bill. I've talked to a lot of actuaries, and as we know, deductibles have gone up and up and up. And so as the higher the deductible, the many people will not access care that they need, even though preventive care in some cases is covered, but how that's defined can be squishy. Even I've heard stories about people being charged $200 copay for an emergency visit when they had a test for the COVID-19. So under health security, there is no copay for preventive care, and the state employees have a really good preventive care services. The other thing is, and it's just me, I feel copays are very punitive to the ill. And I just discovered that France has a copay system for no preventive care, but if they have a list of chronic illnesses, and if you have those chronic illnesses, I assume like cancer or heart disease, you don't pay any copays in France. I think that's a fascinating idea. But that's what the purpose of our the 3-year setup phase is that we've got a lot of bright people. I've traveled around the state for years, and we have a lot of bright people. And I think we can create something that is really very exciting and could actually be a model for other states. And it's allowed under the Affordable Care Act, assuming the Supreme Court doesn't throw the Affordable Care Act. There is a section called Section 1332 in the Affordable Care Act that we convinced Senator Bingaman that it needed to go in there because an exchange system may not work for all states. And it's in there, and it says that you could do like what the Health Security Act is, and you'd still get all those federal dollars, the subsidies. You wouldn't lose anything, which is, I think, very important.
What kind of support did you get from Dee Feldman?
Oh, she was very supportive.
Okay.
Dee has always been a strong supporter and a very important. When she was in the state senate,
right,
considered the health guru.
I know. That's why I was asking. Anything she says,
yeah.
I'll go for it.
I just want to know.
And Representative Debbie Armstrong has kind of taken, I think, Dee Dee's place as the guru, and she is the chair of the Health and Human Services Committee in the House.
Yes.
And co-chairs with Senator Ortiz-Pino, the Legislative Health and Human Services.
Dr. Rodriguez?
Very bright. She is executive director of the high-risk pool that we have in New Mexico, and
right.
she's attorney by training. And then she was a physical. I didn't realize this, but she told me she was a physical therapist for many years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ms. Dr. Rodriguez?
If this passes, how does it apply to large employers like the universities?
Could you hear that, Mary? How does this apply to employers, large employers like universities?
Well, the universities would be included. Those who are under ERISA would be companies like TNM and Intel, some of the oil and gas companies. But the universities would be included, so they would be automatically covered. In fact, K&G points out that this plan would actually, New Mexico would have virtually universal coverage. Whether you're covered by the plan or you're covered by Intel doesn't join, then you still have coverage where you're a military retiree and you're covered. So they're estimating at about 80% of New Mexicans would be covered specifically by this plan. And 20% then are covered either through the military or, they made an assumption about self-insured. The evidence is such, though, that many of these self-insured companies would join the plan.
And does it also cover
rising healthcare costs?
Question here. We have a question.
Does the report also discuss savings to these large employers?
I think the report is a little bit. It talks about in terms of says that it talks about it in this way. It makes an assumption that the ERISA employers may not join, but the individuals may. But then they make the statement that the employers who are already paying for health care will pay the same or less. And they didn't factor in lower workers' comp and auto insurance in there. They say they say later on that's going to go down, but they don't tell us by how much. So it's the small employer or the employer who's never covered, couldn't afford it. That's going to obviously pay something. And the question is the formula. They came up with 4 different payment scenarios, and they said that there clearly are others. And so, and they are thinking in terms of, here it is, they did this study in 2000, right? And we're talking about 2024. Not 2000, they did it in 2020, and 4 years down the pike. So in the setup process, the year prior to implementation, there obviously is going to have to be a fiscal analysis that will look at the cost of the plan, number one, and then the revenue side. And by 2023, if 2024 ends up being the implementation date, by 2023 we'll know, first certainly who's president, we'll know what federal dollars are available. Clearly the more federal dollars you have, the less you have to raise from state. So that's really critical, and then and we'll have a better idea about numbers and all the range of possibilities of premiums and ways for employers to contribute. The Health Security Act doesn't have a straight payroll percentage. It also says consider the number of employees, and the idea is to be sensitive to small employers that way.
Okay.
And so I think that's, and then if the numbers don't look good, at any point during this setup period, the legislature could pull the plug or make changes.
Sure.
And that's, I think that the plug won't be pulled. I think we'll be making changes based on new realities that we're facing. And I just feel, there's so many bright people around the state. I think we're going to figure things out. And just the way Medicare, when Medicare was passed, a lot of people didn't have good numbers, and there have been a lot of changes over the years, right? But does that mean that we wouldn't have passed Medicare? We know that those numbers weren't going to be as solid as we thought. Well, I think we all agree that it's a wonderful program, and it was worth and has been worth every penny of investment, and people will figure out how to make it affordable.
Right. Anybody else have questions? We need to move on.
Yeah, you do. The Dr. Feldblum's contact info is on the very back page
Okay.
of your packet. Her email, just feel free to, she's really good about getting back to people. who
Thank
have
you.
questions.
Thank you.
We appreciate you being here. This is exciting, and we'll keep the resolution on the table.
Wonderful, and if you need me to come back, I know this is a lot, and, as you look through the stuff, and if you can email me personally, call me, or I'm very honored and pleased to come back, and maybe it'll be personal, who knows?
Yes. Very well. Well, we appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, and thank you, Pat.
What's that?
I
Thank you all
appreciate
very
it.
much.
Absolutely.
Please stay safe, everybody.
You too. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Next order of business, Cassandra?
Mr. Mayor, our last presentation is by Chip Neston, owner of High Plains Meat Processing Facility, briefing the council on what has been done to improve the facility and their plans and needs for the future.
Thank you.
Should be wearing those rubber gloves.
Welcome, Mr. Neston.
Should be wearing those rubber gloves.
Hi.
You guys don't have any?
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Mayor, how are you?
Welcome, sir. Come on in. Absolutely.
Where would you like us to sit?
Up here, please. This is where the mics are.
Make sure there's no trap doors underneath.
They're making a presentation, I'll just do
Moral support.
Thank you. Please introduce yourselves.
Should I start?
No, I think ladies first.
Ladies first.
Hi, I'm Joanna Meston. My husband and I are the owners of High Plains Processing, which is opening south of town.
Yes.
I'm a physician, I'm an anesthesiologist. My husband and I entered into all of this when we got married. His family had been working with cattle for many, many years, going back generations. Our brand that we use for what we call 15 Mile Ranch, our ranch is
actually the brand that belonged to my grandfather in Colorado.
Oh, wow.
And we're hoping to expand down here and provide jobs. And
Yeah, well, we really appreciate your interest in Las Vegas. Definitely.
Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. We appreciate you coming.
Mr. Mayor, to augment what my wife is saying.
Yes.
We bought that facility and actually closed on it last November. We have been in a project of retrofitting the building to see to it that we strictly comply with all of the environmental regulations, all of the utility regulations, and all aspects of safe food handling procedures. To augment what Joanna, I'm sorry, sir.
Let me just, for the record, tell the audience, the viewing audience, what we're talking about, in case they didn't get this. This is about a meat processing facility that's coming to Las Vegas. It's located south of town, right by the old church, by the church area. So we have with us today the owners of that processing plant. And I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Mayor, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
I can see why you're the leader.
Thank you.
But anyway, sir, what we are in the process of doing, Joanna had alluded to the fact my family's been involved in the production livestock since 1870.
Wow.
And we had started in the registered cattle business about 1910. And in 1960, they raised registered Herefords. And in 1960, they had their own subset, their own brand of registered Herefords that was established. So anyway, past members of our family have been successful in agriculture. I came out to Colorado, and I've gone over to what my mother calls the dark side, because we have Black Angus cows.
Yes.
And we bought a grain elevator in Calhan. We've got background lots to basically flesh out our animals. And basically, we're going to be a pasture-to-plate organization. And what the facility here in Las Vegas allows us to do is to be in pretty much complete control of the livestock or the animal's life from the time period that he's weaned, he or she is weaned, born, all the way to the time that it's ready to be consumed by a human being. That's been pretty much a lifelong dream of mine. By lifelong, I mean 54 years.
Wow.
Okay? The idea of, wouldn't that be something if we could do all of this?
Yeah.
We have a sales and distribution force that we're putting together. We actually have an office in Hanoi, Vietnam, that will be helping us merchandise our finished meat products over into the Association of Asian Nations, or ASEAN. And then recently, we've added to our client list some people from Australia and Brazil, which is interesting because Brazil has actually more beef cattle than we have
I was
here
just
in
going to
America.
say, yeah, they produce a lot.
They recognize the value of what we do here, and they want to take our product and distribute it to their clients in Japan and Korea.
Wow.
Okay, so the idea is that we'd have consistent flow of product going through our facility. And the idea with making all the improvements there was to put us in the position that as the demand for our product grows, we would be able to serve those needs. Because where this really got started is I read an article that was in the back of a Barron's magazine that said the World Agricultural Supply Demand Estimate, basically a think tank associated with the United Nations, had said that we've got 7 billion people in the world, with 2 billion of us middle income and better, and we're going to 9 in the next 10 to 15 years. That was 5 to 7 years ago. Anyway, and we'll have 5 billion middle class and above. So the first thing that happens when you go from being poor to middle class is you improve your diet. And you improve your diet first by what the presentation of the protein on your plate is. Now, having said all that, what's really important about what we're trying to get done here, it's basically 200 miles away from where our background lots are, north of the New Mexico border, north of New Mexico border, or 200 miles from here. And so what we're asking our livestock to do is take their last ride in some measure of comfort, as opposed to being sent all the way to Fort Worth, Texas.
Right.
Okay. The facility size it's smaller, quite frankly, but
question.
In addition to that, not just our own cattle, but since we've purchased the plant and started retrofitting it, we've been inundated with calls from producers in the northern New Mexico area
Wow.
that need a place to take their cattle that's not somewhere in Texas or further east.
Wow,
And we are hoping to be able to help meet that need as well.
absolutely.
Literally.
That's.
Meet the need. But anyway, the end result is, we're getting to be in a position to, we'll be open here shortly. We'll do a soft opening. We'll be doing a lot of testing because we've got a lot of partners. By that, I mean people that have a say-so on how we conduct our business. We want to be able to say, okay, this is how much water we're using, this is what's going into the water, this is how we're handling this is how we're taking care of that. And we'll have a manifest, and you can come in and check everything out, and it'll be like a palindrome. We can start at the beginning and go to the end, and we can start at the end and go back to the beginning. And the idea behind all of that is that we will be in a position to be a high-quality employer that's responsible employer that with high-quality product coming out of it that we will be very proud of. And at the same token, right, kind of give you an idea of what we're getting at. Immediately after we closed on the building, the weekend before, right at Thanksgiving, the first series of meetings that we had was with a gentleman named Steve Pedro, and he's with the environmental division here, to, try to figure out exactly and precisely, okay, how can we make this work and have you feel comfortable and your staff feel comfortable with what we're doing. Then you get tied up with the economic development people and all that kind of stuff that's taking place, because we are going to mean some jobs. It'll mean some jobs for people and whatnot. But where the rubber really meets the road here is the fact that you're going to take a 1,200-pound animal, butcher it, and put it in a box and get it ready to be sold. That is as close to basically spinning straw into gold as you're going to get, especially in the production agriculture environment. And what that means for the city of Las Vegas and San Miguel County is there should be a large influx of funds coming into this community and surrounding area, which is going to be really good.
Absolutely. And I'm sure when you start, you won't have that many employees, and you probably will expand as you go, but how many jobs are you talking about?
Well, we told Tim Hageman and the people with the economic development that we're going to have 24 pretty much right away. And that's running one shift. Okay. If we don't ever turn the lights off, that means we'd have 2.5 to 3 shifts. In essence, you could triple that. We may never get there, but then again, a person that decides, just like an Olympic athlete, you train and train and train and train and train and train and train. Eventually, you're thinking, yeah, I want to be on the top of the dais with the gold medal around my neck.
Sure.
But again, it gets back to the idea behind all of this is to be in a position that we'd have people that were getting paid decent wages, we'd have a benefit program that would make sense, and at the same token, there'd be a lot of business coming from our facility.
Wonderful. Go ahead.
What are the skills required for this? And is there going to be a training program, or are you going to have a lot of kind of requirements for people to be able to get these jobs?
Absolutely. A couple things. Number one is the state of New Mexico has got something to be really proud of. You have a job training program, JTIP, that's run by a gentleman named Patrick Gannon. We're one of his clients. And what that means is all of our people are going to be going through a regimented training program for depending upon what their station is. If are you working on a meat cutter? Are you a meat wrapper? What are you doing? Are you in sale? Selling the product? Are you meeting somebody at the door? Are you taking care of compliance, both as far as the animals outside is concerned, or some of the back office paperwork is concerned? It's kind of interesting. They have a program called ONET, and it lists every job you can possibly imagine, and you have to have things set up so. The job has a number, it's assigned a number, and all of that kind of thing. I'm belaboring the point. But the end result is, yes, we're going to answer your question, yes, we're going to have a training program. We're very seriously evaluating, can we take a professional meat cutting program from another university and for example, bring it out here to Luna Community College.
Right.
We've been working with one of your county commissioners, to, having some discussions about doing exactly that. It's getting time now where we need to put boots on the ground.
And this product will be sold locally out of your facility, or you will be selling this product also to like Lowe's, or how are you?
When you say product, you mean the finished meat product?
Yes.
So actually, what's going to happen, there's going to be a line going up to the Denver airport and one down to Albuquerque airport. It's going to get on a 747. It's going to go all over the world.
It'll be a combination of things.
Okay.
The producers that are bringing their cattle in, some of those cattle will be processed for those producers who have their own
Okay.
distribution channels or their own individual use, their own restaurants they're aligned with,
Right.
their own programs. So it will be on many levels, locally, in the region, and internationally.
International, okay.
Are you ready for questions, or did you want to?
Well, I can talk all night.
Okay.
I'll probably bore you to tears, but that's okay.
Mr. Montoya, go ahead, and then Mr.
Well, welcome. This is long time coming, I guess. Are we talking about the same plant that was opened years ago, that shut down?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Located at
And that's
27
in-
Selbarn Road.
Yeah, and that's in the county or in the city limits?
Well, we're out, I believe we're outside the city limits.
Okay. And I also had some questions the mayor had, how many people you were going to be employing from this area, but that's been answered. Why Las Vegas? I know there's a need and a demand, but
Real simple, okay. We started looking for plants, we found one in California.
Mhm.
We found one in Texas. Again, the problem is, how long can you stand up and go for a ride?
Mhm.
Okay? Okay.
All
If
right.
we put something on, at La Junta as an example, it's 198 miles,
Yeah.
and it's all I-25. And so you're down here in 3 hours.
Yeah.
That's a lot easier on the stock
Yeah.
than an 8-hour ride. One of the things that happens, one of your producers here was that we're talking about things, says, I'm so glad that you're going to be opening your facility because I have to send things to Omaha.
Wow.
And what happens is, I'm sorry.
I said, wow.
What happens is, they go on a diet, they lose 3% of their weight, and let's face reality, that costs money.
Yeah.
Not to mention the stress hormones that are
Yeah.
using the meat.
Mhm.
The animals.
Flavor.
And I understand that because right now we take him up to Colorado, or we take him down to Clovis, or if not, Texas. But, yeah, it is an issue in the palm.
And see,
And then there's a waiting line. Right now, we have, I think, probably a year's time. If you take something, an animal up there, you'll be put on the schedule a year away from now. And,
We're in the airline business,
yeah,
if you think about it.
so our airport wouldn't be beneficial to you?
I don't know the answer to that,
Okay.
okay? Again, you're dealing with freight forwarders, and a couple things have to happen. Number one is, we've had the opportunity to go through the World Trade Center training program they have up in Denver, because we're going to be entering into financial contracts with people who, we use English common law here, they use Roman law. And so it's different. And so we got to make certain that we got all the i's dotted and all the t's crossed and everything like that. And so typically, you're dealing with a freight forwarder, and they know they have a track that they want to run on.
Okay, well,
And-
if you need our assistance on moving that forward, please let us know. Because that's an avenue that would cost you, save you a lot of money from here to Albuquerque and back.
Sir, it's one thing to save money, it's another thing to utilize the
Well-
assets of your neighbors.
Sure.
Okay? I mean, we're all in this together. We all have to pull a wagon together. And one of the things that's important to us is that our business benefits, it's kind of like here. You draw a big circle. All of a sudden, it's going to be really easy to say, okay, we can help this and help this, take care of this, do this and this. One of the things that we do is that we provide young people scholarships from our ranch company at the University of Northern Colorado, as well as the National Western Stock Show. Okay, guess what? If this is successful, we'll have that program's going to grow, going to be like it's on steroids. Okay?
And you're saying that you're going to take cattle from here locally around New Mexico?
Let's back up just a little bit. The end-use customers is going to be who decides. Okay? Okay, by that I mean, how are the animals fed and things of that nature?
I understand that.
Okay, and if we can say, well, I've got grass-fed, I've got organic, I've got grain-fed, we don't care. I really don't care. It doesn't matter to me if my car is red, silver, or blue. I don't care. What I want to have happen is I would like to have my customer riding in my car. And what I want to do is help the local.
So there's a possibility then?
Absolutely.
That they won't
One of the
meet
questions.
the organic or the specs that your end of demand is expecting?
One of the questions I get asked by a couple of our larger clients is, where are you going to get the cattle? We're going to, guess what, get in the car, we'll drive all around, just take a look. This is where they're going to come from. And what was interesting, when they went to the background lot of one of the places, there's a program called Beef Quality Assurance, BQA, and this big, as you drive in there, you tell them, this is what you're looking for is beef quality assurance. When our plant has been operational for a long period of enough time, we'll go through a safe quality food program, the British Retail Consortium program, where you get additional certification stickers, if you will, that can be put on the box. And what that means is the product that's in the box is worth marginally more money. And basically, the whole point of the exercise is to try to bring money into the business, into the area, into the community, and into the producer's pockets. Because what the problem that I have with agriculture is the trash can gets paid better than the producer does. If you take the dollar of food product, 25% of it is thrown away. The producer gets 13.5 cents of the money the consumer spends $1 on. So in other words, the trash can is getting paid better than the producer.
Yeah. Mr. Ulibarri?
Well, I'm happy that you're opening that meat processing plant. That's been 80% of my life. I started meat cutting when I was 17 years old. And I worked for supermarkets of New Mexico. We were processing meats for 12 stores, and I was a supervisor for them until I came back to town. But our family, my family, we process our own meats. You know, we've been doing it for half a century. You know, but I'm glad that you're doing that because there's a need for that.
Yeah.
You know, and,
Everybody eats every day.
yeah.
And so, it's like, okay,
Yeah, we barter with the ranchers and we buy our lands, we buy our meats, but I'm happy that you guys are opening up and, I'll say I did it for so many years, it's my life and we keep on doing it, so.
Can I ask if you have, I'm sorry, Reed?
No problem.
Okay. Do you have a market for waste, for anything that isn't consumable?
absolutely, Mayor.
Okay. That's the blood, bones,
Okay.
hooves, anything?
You have to understand something. We're asking another living thing to give up its life.
Yeah.
Okay, what that means to me is everything. Everything has to be used. The
Okay.
blood, the hide, the hooves, the head, everything.
Okay.
There's a market and there's a place for all of it to go. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good.
Right.
It doesn't matter. What's most important is if you're going to ask something else to give up its life, it has to have done so for a reason other than just a little bit of it.
That's good. It's good to hear. Anybody else? Mr. Romero?
Yeah, and thanks, Chip, for investing in the community and, and wanting to start this venture. A question that I have, pertaining to the city, is going to be water. The amount of water you need. If you expand, as you know, in the past we've had, right now we're not so bad, but I know water has kind of been an issue on other developments that have happened, but kind of the long term, what do you see the need? How much water do you need? Are you going to need additional of currently what's out there right now, or?
Councilor Romero, first of all, you have to understand something. It was Joanna that found your town, your facility there. Because she was the one who was looking around, what are we going to do? And she said, well, this is the plan in Las Vegas, And I'm thinking Las Vegas, sorry, Las Vegas, Nevada. And I'm thinking, the last time I was there, the idea of going there was you put your $20 chip down on the table, the wheel spins a little bit, and the lady reaches over and picks up your $20 chip and says, now, wasn't that fun? And so I'm thinking, Las Vegas? And then she goes, no, Las Vegas, New Mexico. And I said, well, that's on the way to Albuquerque. That's just south, a little bit south of the Colorado border. That's right by La Junta, and it's real easy to get to. Okay, and so we came down and kind of fell in love with some of the interesting things that take place here. But to answer your question, water is going to be a very important resource. and we're evaluating that on an ongoing basis. When we're doing our opening, what'll happen is we'll be testing how much we're using per head. We're going to be testing what we're taking off the production floor. By testing, what I mean, there's a facility in, I think it's in Santa Fe, it's called in-depth water testing, and they'll get samples, and we'll know exactly and precisely how many gallons of water we're using per head, what's in the water, and as far as what we expect to have, because the blood will be handled separately, we expect to have a slight trace of organic nitrogen. The gentleman that wrote our HACCP plan, and HACCP is just another acronym for Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point Plan. It's in essence our Bible. It says how we're going to run. He's got clients all over the United States. He has a client in Kentucky, Nebraska, and Kansas. And what they do is that little bit of nitrogen in the water is incredibly good for plants. And so they sell it.
Oh, wow.
You know, I'm sitting there thinking, wouldn't it be something if we could sell the water? Because you spray that on plants and that kind of stuff, it's like
Fertilizer.
Fertilizer. It's like having a fertigation pot hooked up to it, which we've had up in Colorado, but it's instead of the product being in the fertigation pot, which is inorganic, this is organic. And so we lessen the environmental problem that putting chemical, because it's a chemical that is going to exist there anyway. You know, we get a good rainstorm with a bunch of electricity going through the air. The air we breathe is 70+% nitrogen. That frees up the nitrogen. It hits the ground, right? That's why the plants all green up after a nice rain. It's the same thing. It's an organic compound, but again, it gets back to we're going to figure out how to handle that the best. But we got to crawl first before we can walk, before we can run.
Where else do you have plants at?
This is it.
This is it?
Mm-hmm.
So let me go back to the local farmer. You won't be able to process elk or deer in your plant for locals?
We
It's
looked at
just
that
strictly-
really in depth.
It's strictly beef?
We looked at that really in depth. And one of the things that happened here before, the prior operator got in trouble because they were when you go from one species of animal to another, you're supposed to do a complete tear down and clean up. Okay? And if you don't do that, the USDA doesn't like it none too much. Okay? I don't want to risk having the privilege of having them let us operate. Okay? You know, you can field dress, you can field butcher an elk. Doesn't have to be in an environment like what we have. And I've got people with skills that, yeah, they can go do that. But again, it gets back to I'm very, very jealously protective of the fact that the USDA office in Dallas, Texas, on the 13th of October of this year, assigned us an establishment ID number. I do not want to ever do anything that's going to put us in the position where that can be taken away, because that means people lose their jobs, people.
I understand.
It'd just be horrible, it'd be bad. Can't have it, won't have it.
Thank you.
Well, this is totally exciting. When do you think the boots are going to hit the floor and the doors are going to open?
Well, I've got people in there now,
Uh-huh.
and we're in the process of getting ready to have what I call a soft opening.
Uh-huh.
And we'll be doing that initially with some people that we've been fielding calls from folks. We'd like to come bring some animals in, bring an animal in so we can butcher it for our personal consumption. There's two tracks to run on that in this. Number one is where it's, what do they call it? Where it's for personal consumption. It's got everything's got a name.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, a little bit wound up, but and then you've got something where the USDA inspector's in there. What I want to do is I want to have my crews be calm and be able to handle things in a decent, rateable manner and everything, because one of the things that happens if there's any kind of crosswords that's going on during a production cycle, that gets written up.
Sure.
And again, it gets back to my overriding concern to want to guard the ability to conduct business.
Absolutely.
Because that license is what gives our franchise value.
Okay.
And when we say slow start, that also speaks to the training aspect of things. We want our crews to be able to slowly gear up to speed, working together and learning their skills and being able to cross-train in different positions.
Great. This is awesome. This is wonderful. It's good news for us. Do you see any pitfalls, anything that you are concerned about that?
Well, yes.
Okay,
One of the things that's really important to me is that we get along.
sure,
Okay? And what that means is that we recognize that we're here to help you make the community a better place to live. Okay? And we would really appreciate it if the powers that be them from the economic development side or the environmental side and all of that, if we're going to have a problem with our water, we are. If I can make the business grow, the 2-inch line that serves us now will be inadequate. We'll need to figure out a way that we can have a bigger line coming in and some kind of line coming out
sure.
that we don't have. And, you know, so I'm going to be coming a little bit hat in hand saying, can you help me figure out a way to get this paid for over either a period of time or with however it works.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we believe that we'll be a successful business, and I think we'll earn the privilege of having people's repeat business. And the idea is that when we want to go from something that's like so to something that's more along the lines like that.
Gotcha.
I was talking to Maria Gilvery's. I was told he's not an engineer. I wanted to give him the title of engineer. His last name is Ahern.
Yeah.
Travis Ahern.
Travis Ahern.
And he told me that the pressure that we have on of the water coming in will meet our needs now. Okay? But again, if more people are put on the line or more things happen, that pressure is going to be at risk. And so maybe it would be a good idea to seriously evaluate the bringing in of additional infrastructure to help us see to it that we have enough water to keep our facility properly cleaned.
When will you know? When will you know?
We're working on that right now.
Okay.
Because like I said, our soft opening, what we're
Sure.
going to be doing is testing the water, seeing how much quantity we're using and that
Sure.
kind of stuff. And we'll break it down by head, and then it's just a matter of, okay, what's the difference between 1 and 100? The number.
Gotcha. Very well.
What's the acreage there, sir?
I'm sorry?
What's the acreage there?
A little over 6.
6. Does it have any water rights?
Yes, we actually have a well on site, and was one of the things that we did since we bought the facility. The well was not registered with the state of New Mexico. They didn't know about it, and it was actually drilled on the 10th of October, 1958. The reason I know that is because we found a certificate and where the bill came from to get the drilling done and all of that. So now we have a registered well on site, and that water can be used to basically water all our corrals and pens.
Have you had the well tested, the water tested for
Yes.
quality?
Mm-hmm.
And so you'd rather use it for that than your internal operations?
Well, one of the things that we're looking at doing is a wastewater reclamation and recycling system.
Gotcha.
In essence, an oversized RO system.
Sure.
The prior operator they actually had one. There's a program called LEDA. They got money from LEDA to put a wastewater reclamation and recycling system in that. When the business didn't work out, I guess it was taken away. We're going to do something very similar to that, I believe, by the time it's all said and done.
And would it be sort of a pool or a leach pool that drains and filters and then into a reusable water
What I envision,
system?
Mayor, is I don't like leach fields.
Yeah,
Leach fields have a containment problem,
right.
okay? And what I think it'll happen is it'd be a couple of large, say fiberglass reinforced polypropylene tanks where the water's come.
Sure.
We're just doing this, it's just recycling.
Okay.
And then that way it'll be above ground so that Steve Pedro's concerns about anything in ground is addressed. And at the same token, my employees, our employees can see, we're half full or where we are. But in essence, what the technology exists
Sure.
to be able to wash and repeat.
I was just going to tell you, there's lots of technology out there, from using, light to all kinds of stuff to filter water and purify it, so.
But again, what's important with all of that, and then Tim Hageman, there's a program that the state of New Mexico has, which and can be either sponsored by the county or something that we go after ourselves individually, where you can finance over an extended period of time the ability to do water reclamation, water treatment reclamation type projects. Because one of the consequences of the COVID situation is the finance industry has really been curtailed. And they're thinking, well, you know, everybody's staying home, they're all locked under cover, and they're hiding under a blanket. Guess what? We all eat every day, though.
Yeah, they're a little trigger shy these days. Yeah.
And I understand why that is.
Yeah.
But by the same token, we need to be moving ahead.
Sure.
One last question for me, Mr. Mayor. How many acre feet of water do you have there?
What we're allowed, what the state license allows us is 3 acre feet, which is approximately 1 million gallons. I think it's 325,581
Yeah,
gallons.
registered with the engineer's office.
Yes, sir.
That's 3 acre.
I think the gentleman that we worked with, his name was Diego Anaya.
Okay. Thank you.
Wonderful. Anybody else? We appreciate you coming to talk to us, and
Thank you
please,
for letting us.
please call on us if, you know, when that time comes, and we can be good neighbors.
Oh. You want me to bring this up now?
If you would like to, or I'd be happy to.
Go ahead.
Mayor, Councilman, my name is Gail Hauser. I'm the Quality Assurance Manager for Chip and Joanna. I live here in town, been here for 13 years. I have a extensive small business background in manufacturing, which actually lends itself incredibly well to this enterprise. One of my specialties was for a couple of years, I consulted in lean manufacturing. And when you see the process as we are developing it, you will see for sure why lean manufacturing is so imperative to get the numbers of carcasses through this facility. The reason that I'm speaking right now is I actually threw Chip a curve. I thought he knew this, but I obviously did not give him the information. We had requested through the utility department to get some idea of cost for bringing a 4-inch line, a 6-inch line, water and natural gas down to the facility. Because of our anticipated growth over the next 1 to 3 years, we need to make sure that we have adequate resources in order to grow accordingly, whether it be for multiple shifts, building additions, whatever the fact may be. As the water situation stands now, it actually goes all the way around and then comes in from one of our neighbors, which could create a problem at some point. We don't anticipate it, but we need a steady, 100% guaranteed flow of increased water, as well as natural gas for heating, primarily heating of the water. If you know anything about the process, we do a lot of cleaning of instruments at 160 degrees Fahrenheit, which takes a huge amount of power in order to get to that area. The utility department did provide a budgetary number, strictly budgetary, from EE Construction in Albuquerque of bringing in 5,400 linear feet of 6-inch PVC for the water. Installation of a fire hydrant and valve, everything above board and together, with both of those lines encompassed in this quotation. The number that they provided, budgetarily only at this point, is $481,392. When we met with your city manager and Mr. Hendrickson, we approached them on this. Is this something that is viable that the city may have interest in participating in? And because of that, we scheduled this meeting so that you can understand the background of not only the company, but what the growth plans are and the quality of what we're doing for the city as well as the northeastern region of New Mexico. While this may be a big number, what we're talking about doing for an expansion, the markets that we're starting to discuss is equally, if not much larger than this situation. We wanted to be perfectly upfront that we don't expect you to just write out a check tonight. We can wait till next week. But what we're doing in conjunction with Bill Hendrickson, the state with Tim Hageman, is we're going to explore a number of options. And so being forward and upfront for this kind of money, we felt that you needed to know right now what our anticipated utility expenses will be. And this doesn't include all the on-site work that we're going to be doing that we continue to do currently.
That was one of the reasons why I asked that question.
And that's why I asked mine.
Yeah, and you know, we want to be welcoming to all businesses in the community, and that's a genuine feeling on my behalf. So it's worth taking to the drawing board and see where we go with this. Absolutely.
One question, Mayor, Mr. Mayor. How is Bill Hendrickson working with you? You mentioned, I mean, in what capacity?
Actually, Bill and I have known each other for quite some time. I worked over in Tucumcari in economic development. And Bill and I had worked together and referred and helped and done those types of things. And the reason why I engaged Bill was because I didn't know this group. It was slightly after the election. I hadn't had the opportunity to get to know you folks. I did not know the city manager at that point in time, although I knew of him. And we just thought that Bill could, I guess you could say, attest to my credibility or the credibility of this project. And so that was the reason why he was involved. He's also involved in working with me and trying to develop this training program at Luna Community College. So, you know, if I can help him, I do. If he can help me here locally, that's the way it should work anyway.
Okay. Again, I think it's worth taking to the drawing board and see where we get. I can't give you a definite right now. I can't give you a blessing. Neither of us can. But I appreciate that, the candidness, and we look forward to working with you to see how we can do. Yeah, absolutely. And have you guys explored solar as opposed to gas?
I'm glad. Can I answer that?
Go right ahead.
Do you mind? I'm glad you asked that. I live off-grid. I live up on the Apache Mesa.
Okay.
And I've talked to Carrie Lane here in town, who I know very, very well, about that possibility, probably if we expand on that site.
Okay.
There's a couple inherent issues, but nothing that's insurmountable.
Okay.
But to me, because of the draw, and we put a battery pack in there that we could utilize on a 24/7 basis, it would make just huge amounts of sense.
Yeah.
The only thing that's a downside is apparently the tax credits, both federal and state, are reducing. I haven't checked into that lately, but it's still, either way, it would be absolutely grossly advantageous for everybody concerned.
Perfect. Yeah, and you have the acreage, and you have, you have room for expansion of solar, production. I was just wondering if that had been an avenue that you had looked at. Yeah.
Our ranching operation, we're putting, at Nebraska, we're putting more and more solar-driven pumps for bringing water out and putting them into a stock tank.
That's awesome.
Mayor, councilors, you should know something about me. I have a little bit of a flawed character.
Oh, no.
I'm Scotch-Irish, which means that I have a short temper and a long memory. Okay, I heard about this, okay? We have a ranch. We took a water line and ran it a half a mile from one stock tank location, admittedly across all the land belongs to us, to another location. We had hired a company that was out of Bennett, Colorado, and he charged us $2,200 to do that. And so I'm looking at this thinking, what for?
Right.
And I'm sorry, I'm just being totally transparent.
Sure.
And I'm sitting there thinking, what was his name? His wife's name's Ilsa. She's just a sweetheart. What was her name? You know, those Dodge pickups that just hardly run, but, well, no, I mean, it was interesting. He said, I forgot to change the oil in my pickup. And I said, well, guess what happens? They quit. And it did, and he didn't have it's either spend the $10,000 on the pickup or $10,000 on yet another project for him to work on for something else. Okay, and I said, well, here, let me buy the materials before you get your pickup fixed, because I don't know how to run a backhoe.
Right.
Well, anyway, I'm looking at this thinking, this just isn't right.
Right.
Okay, because what we're talking about, 5,400 feet, that's a lineal feet, that's a little more than a mile.
Yeah.
Admittedly, 6 inches is bigger than one of those little, like a 2-inch deal underneath like that.
Mhm.
But what? But anyway,
Okay.
we'll figure something out here.
Okay. Absolutely. Well, I'm absolutely excited. And I'm so excited that we have a new business opportunity in town. And we'll do everything we can to work with you.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking time out to hear our story and listen and visit with us. We
Sure.
appreciate it very much.
Absolutely. Thank you. And good luck. This is so exciting. I want to go to Hanoi, though, with you one of these days.
My mom asked about that.
I would love
And she
to
goes,
go.
why? I said, we're going to start up a driving school there. If you watch the YouTube about how that works there, it looks like a madhouse.
There's no direction in traffic.
It looks like a blood vessel.
Yeah.
Across the street, you just walk and don't stop.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Everything goes around you.
Right. All right. Thank you so much, and welcome to Las Vegas.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
next item on the agenda is our finance report.
Is Mr. Vaquera here?
Yes, he is. Let me grab him.
Welcome, Mr. Vaquera.
Mayor, council,
Good evening.
I'm here to present the financial reports for the month ending September 30th, which is the first quarter of the year. General fund revenues are at 27%. Well, right now we should be at 25, so we're pretty close. Expenditures are at 21%. We got a surplus on our general fund for the month of $324,000. Our enterprise fund revenues are at 22%, expenditures are at 16%, and we got a surplus of $459,000. The recreation department, we got revenues at 22%, expenditures at 23%, and a surplus of a little over $1,000. Lodgers tax, we got revenues at 84% and expenditures at 10%, surplus of $71,371. Any questions?
Yes. I have one question pertaining to grocery receipts. Where are we with that?
As of right now, we are a little lower than we were last year, but not as bad as what we had expected.
You have numbers more or less?
Yeah.
Comparisons?
Second line on your revenue, that's your gross receipts tax, your 1.2. We got $1,025,000 this year. Last year, we had $1,043,000, so about $20,000 less. But we were expecting a 20% drop on our gross receipts. That has not materialized. I do not have an answer as to why, but I think that we'll see lower gross receipts in the next 2 or 3 months coming through.
I think kind of expected this, just because I noticed there more spending was more spending was done at Walmart, at home, the local lumber companies.
Yes.
And once kind of some of the unemployment benefits went away, I think that's kind of when, which was what, May?
July.
July. Once those went away, I think that's kind of when people started holding back as far as spending, because the reality was that there were some individuals that were making more off unemployment than they were working. So I think that's kind of why, we didn't get affected so much, but.
But now we'll see it this coming 2 months.
Well, thank you, Mr. Vaquero. Is there anything you need to alert us about?
No, sir.
Okay. Appreciate that. Anybody have more questions for the finance report? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vaquero. Thanks for staying up with us.
Mr. Mayor, our next item is business items, and we also have the Finance Director, Keith Vaquera,
Okay.
for Resolution 2064, budget adjustment in the 2020-2021 fiscal year budget.
Okay. Anybody have any questions regarding this? No?
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to approve Resolution 20-64.
Motion on the floor by Mr. Romero, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ulibarri. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you, Mr.
Motion
Mayor.
carries. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vaquera.
Thanks, Mayor, Council.
Mr. Mayor, next item on the agenda is the discussion and request to work with New Mexico Highlands University and New Mexico Department of Transportation and others to determine the feasibility of accessing Rich Street and the plaza to the NMHU campus via University Avenue rather than National Avenue. We have our Community Development Director, Mr. Hendrickson.
Thank you, Mr. Hendrickson. Welcome. Cassandra, for the record, and maybe Mr. Romero, this already came to council and was approved.
This is item number 2?
Yes.
No.
I understood it was passed at with the last city council and last administration.
Not that I'm
It was
aware of.
The redevelopment, the MRA? Yes. That's kind of, it's in the plans. I mean, it's in the-
And that was approved.
Yes.
So, and that's included in here.
That's correct.
So then it was approved.
Well, the plan in general.
Yeah. So why is it back to us?
Well, we're presenting it tonight just to let you know we're working on this project and what it's going to entail. And just to alert council, exactly, what we're doing and who we're working with on this. And so,
So you're not seeking approval, you're just...
No, we're not seeking approval tonight at all.
You're just presenting...
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
That's correct.
Point of clarification, Mr. Mayor, on the agenda, they're asking approval to proceed to work with Highlands and NMDOT. That's what the request is.
Yeah, but the plan has already been approved.
Not by council.
Yes.
Well, on that other plan, yeah, we're not, that includes the whole town.
Yeah.
And all the plans.
Right.
But individually, this hasn't been approved through
Yes, it
the
has.
council.
It has been approved with the plan. He's just saying working with them to get this done. This has already been approved.
That was my understanding
Right.
also, that had been approved, and we're just getting an update on the project, correct?
That's correct.
It has been approved through the comprehensive metropolitan redevelopment plan.
That's correct.
That's what it's been approved.
Right.
But you're asking for direction here and approval
Right.
from mayor and council to proceed to work with Highlands and DOT.
It's a discussion, it's not for approval.
We want to discuss it because if we've got the majority of council here is against any of this stuff here, why are we going to bother going forward and having any discussions?
But my point is, just for the record, is that this plan has already been approved.
The concept
And that,
has,
that
yes.
that includes,
The concept has been,
Right.
been approved both in the MRA and the comprehensive plan.
Sure.
That was just passed last week.
okay.
And, you know, we wanted to present to council also to let you know that we are working on something that's in those plans and for the benefit of the community.
Right. Okay.
Okay? So, and if you, and if you have looked at the MRA, and I meant to pass this out before I start talking here. Most, if you don't have access to the MRA, this is one of the charts in it that represents basically what we're going to talk about here in the next few minutes, I hope. Well, I think it goes without saying that this concept has been discussed within the community and has been raised by the community and has ended up in these plans because of the community. And specifically the business community as well. I'm going to pull this down a little bit, it's hard to breathe. And so